A 66-year-old man comes to the physician because of a 3-week history of shortness of breath with exertion. He has hypertension, hyperlipidemia, and type 2 diabetes. His temperature is 37.1 Celsius, pulse is 74, and blood pressure is 150/84. Pulse oximetry on room air shows an oxygen saturation of 96%. Cardiac examination shows an S3 heart sound. Further evaluation of this patient is most likely to show which of the following. Alright, cardiac examination shows an S3 heart sound. S3 and S4 heart sounds are going to occur in diastole. S3 heart sound occurs usually right after a S2 heart sound. So let's drop the heart sounds in wavelength forms. Here is S1 and here's S2. S1 is going to occur due to the closure of the tricuspid and mitral valves, whereas the S2 heart sound is going to occur due to closure of the aortic and the pulmonic valves. Now, between S1 and S2 is systole, and between S2 and S1 is diastole. A S3 heart sound usually occurs right after S2, early in diastole, and a S4 heart sound occurs usually closer to S1 in late diastole. S3 heart sound occurs due to rapid ventricular filling, and a S4 heart sound occurs due to blood flowing into a stiff ventricle. There are three main causes of a S3 heart sound. First can be physiological. This can occur with children and pregnant women. Second reason is due to an increase in volume of the atria, either left or right atria. And the third reason can be due to an increase in volume of the ventricle, either left or right ventricle. Here, if we take a look at this image, let's use the color red. When blood is filling the left ventricle is going to reach a maximum compliance when it is fully filled. It's going to be distended, and if it's distended quickly before diastole ends, which occurs in young people, that can create a S3 heart sound because now we have blood flowing into a fully distended ventricle, and this blood flowing into a full ventricle is going to be oscillating and creating that S3 heart sound. So the rapid deceleration of the blood as it fills the left ventricle can result in the S3 heart sound. Let's say that a person has mitral regurgitation. So during systole, the mitral valve should be closed, and with mitral regurgitation, there's a backflow of blood from the left ventricle into the left atrium. So as a result, during diastole, we have more blood that is going to be filling the left ventricle. At a certain point, the left ventricle is going to be filled, but we will still have blood, more blood within the left atrium due to that regurgitation that happened during systole. And when that extra blood flows into the full ventricle, it will result in oscillation that would give us a S3 heart sound. If a person has congestive heart failure, then they might not be able to pump out all the blood from the left ventricle if they have reduced ejection fraction. Then what happens is we have a leftover blood after systole, then that will result in blood or the ventricle being filled quicker than usual because we have that leftover blood from systole. And then as blood is flowing to a full ventricle during diastole, the blood is going to oscillate and then it is going to give us that S3 heart sound. So those are the three ways a S3 heart sound can occur. Let's look over the answer choices. Answer choice A is earlier onset of abnormal cardiac sound with standing. This is talking about mitral valve prolapse. With mitral valve prolapse, we hear a mid-systolic click. And when a person stands up, that mid-systolic click is going to occur earlier. So let's draw a left ventricle. And then here's the left atrium. These are the mitral valves. Here are the papillary muscles and the chordae tendineae. Now the function of the chordae tendineae along with the papillary muscles is to not allow backflow of blood from the left ventricle into the left atrium. If a person stands up, what happens is that there's more blood going to the extremities. There's less blood that is going to be found within the heart. If there's less blood found within the heart, then the chordae tendineae, along with the papillary muscles, they're going to pull together centrally behind the mitral valve, resulting in a faster and stronger prolapse of the mitral valve. As a result, the mid-systolic click that occurs in mitral valve prolapse is going to occur sooner. Here we have an S1 heart sound, an S2 heart sound. Let's say the mid-systolic click usually occurs here in the person. If they were to stand up, that mid-systolic click would occur earlier, closer to S1. So this is when standing up. So it's not going to be answer choice A. Answer choice B is calcification of the aortic valve. Calcification of the aortic valve happens with aortic stenosis. Aortic stenosis is going to give us a systolic murmur that is going to be crescendo, decrescendo murmur. So on the wavelength form, that murmur is going to look like this. So it has this diamond shape to it. This is a hallmark shape that happens in the murmur of the aortic stenosis. If you take a look at this picture, in aortic stenosis, there are going to be stenosis of the aortic valve, right? As a result, the left ventricle now has to work harder to push out blood through that stenotic valve. That is going to increase the pressure found within the left ventricle. And when we have an increase in pressure, that is going to result in hypertrophy of the left ventricle. Here, so when we have an increase in pressure, that results in something called concentric hypertrophy of the left ventricle. Here is a normal left ventricle, let's say, and this is the normal wall thickness of the left ventricle. With concentric hypertrophy, the left ventricle's wall is going to grow like this here. Let me draw it so that it's similar in size here. Okay, so if you look at the wall, it's much thicker. That's what concentric hypertrophy is. The wall is going to be thicker The reason for this is due to parallel adding of sarcomeres. Here is sarcomeres. There's going to be addition of sarcomeres in parallel with concentric hypertrophy. Sarcomeres are the functional units that make up the striated muscles of the heart. So this concentric hypertrophy of the left ventricle can happen with chronic hypertension and aortic stenosis. These are the two most common causes. Eccentric hypertrophy occurs with aortic regurgitation, which we will talk about. No, it's not going to be answer choice B. Let's move on to answer choice D, digital clubbing. That's also not the answer because that happens with hypoxemia due to most often a respiratory problem like lung cancer. It can happen with cystic fibrosis. But because our patient has an ACE3 heart sound, we're thinking the cause is more cardiovascular related, so we can rule that answer choice out. Answer choice E is left to right shunt through the atrial septum. That's also not true. This is referring to atrial septal defect. With atrial septal defect, there's going to be a defect in the wall that separates the left atrium and the right atrium. Because the left heart has a higher pressure than the right heart, there's going to be blood flow to the right atrium. Now that we have more blood in the right atrium, what happens is there's going to be an increase in flow to the tricuspid valve. Here's the tricuspid valve. There's going to be an increase in blood flow going through the tricuspid valve. And that results in the systolic murmur. Okay, so during systole, that results in a diastolic murmur. So during diastole, the tricuspid valve is open, and we have that increase in blood flow going through that tricuspid valve. As a result, that is going to cause a murmur. So we have a diastolic murmur in atrial septal defect because of the increase in blood flow going through the tricuspid valve. And it is a diastolic murmur because the tricuspid valve is open during diastole. Now we're going to have more blood in the right ventricle, and there's also going to be an increase in blood volume going to the pulmonic valve. And when is the pulmonic valve open? It's open during systole. So there's also going to be a systolic murmur that is going to be due to increase in blood flow going through the pulmonic valve during systole. So we can also cross that answer choice out. Answer choice F is bonding pulses of peripheral arteries. Now this is referring to the wire hammer pulse. That happens in aortic regurgitation. Now during aortic regurgitation, let's try this out. So in diastole, the aortic valve should be closed. So it should be closed. In aortic regurgitation, there's going to be backflow of blood going into the left ventricle. As a result, In systole, we're going to have more blood found within the left ventricle. So there's going to be an increase in blood volume, and then this is going to result in more blood volume being ejected from our left ventricle because of that regurgitation of blood from the aortic valve during diastole. Over time, that increase in blood volume is going to result in eccentric hypertrophy of the left ventricle, and that is going to be due to addition of sarcomeres in parallel, or excuse me, in series. So like this. So this is a series addition of the sarcomeres, and this is parallel. That happens with concentric hypertrophy. With eccentric, there's a series addition of sarcomeres, and then the left ventricle looks like this. So it grew in size, and the walls are thinner, or about the same. And this happens with aortic regurgitation. And the Weyerhamer pulse occurs due to more blood found within the left ventricle during systole. There is going to be a rapid upstroke followed by a prompt collapse of the vessel. And the Weyerhamer pulse can be palpated in distal arteries such as the radial artery, the brachial artery, as well as the ulnar artery. It can also be palpated in the carotid artery, and that's called a Kurgan's pulse. And it can result in a S3 heart sound due to that increase in blood volume found within the left ventricle. So there's going to be a sudden deceleration of blood coming from the left atrium. And then because there's an increase in blood volume found within the left ventricle, then that can result in a S3 heart sound. But this patient is lacking the characteristic decrescendo early diastolic murmur of aortic regurgitation. As a result, we can also cross this answer choice out with aortic regurgitation. We're going to hear a decrescendo murmur that is going to taper off. That happens in early diastole. And this is best heard in the third and fourth intercostal spaces along the left sternal border. Answer choice G is ruptured papillary muscle. As we previously talked about, the papillary muscle is important for not allowing the backflow of blood from the left ventricle to the left atrium. If there's a papillary muscle rupture, then there's going to be a backflow of blood going from the left ventricle to the left atrium, and that results in mitral regurgitation. With mitral regurgitation, the mitral valves should be closed during systole, so it's a systolic murmur. So we should hear a murmur during systole like this. As a result, because the question stem does not state a murmur, a systolic murmur, we can also cross out this answer choice. Our answer is going to be answer choice C, which is elevated serum brain natriuretic peptide levels. A increase in BNP along with a S3 heart sound indicates heart failure. BNP is going to be released once there is a cardiomyocyte stretch. So cardiomyocytes can be stretched and then they release BNP. That results in vasodilation to relieve the heart. And BNP levels are really good at measuring the severity of congestive heart failure. So the higher the BNP levels, the more stress the heart is under. That means, as a result, that means that the stage of the disease is more advanced.